Good morning. Today we are going to talk about informative speech and also about persuasive speech. Today our objective is to learn about the different parts of a speech. Also, we are going to differentiate what is an informative and what is a persuasive speech. Here we have, this is class number 4, and I'm your English teacher, Professor Sabi Vega. What is an informative speech? The purpose of the informative speech is to provide interesting, useful, and unique information to your audience. Remember, this is one of the most important aspects when you deliver a speech. You have to think about the person who is listening to you, your audience. In general, we will use 4 major type of informative speeches. While you can classify informative speeches many ways, the speeches you deliver will fit into one of these 4 major categories. So we have category number 1. This is object. This is when you talk about or you inform your audience about the characteristic of an object. It also could include a place, or it also could include, like, for example, objects. When I talk about objects, I mean it could be a book. You describe a book or you describe a movie. Also, there is another type of informative speech that is the process of speech. So in here, you inform your audience about how to do something. This is also called how to speech. This is very common when you give a recipe, you explain a recipe, how to cook pancakes, for example, how to fix a car. So you explain the step by steps, the different process you follow to solve or fix something. Also, another type of a speech is speeches about events. In here, you describe in a chronological order the sequence of events of an specific situation. Okay, and the last but not least is the concept speech. In here, it's more abstract. You have to deal with some specific language because concepts are very abstract, so you have to use a lot of examples to describe and inform this type of a speech to your audience. So which are the main parts of a speech? Every speech has 3 major parts. Let's start with the introduction. This is the beginning. When you start your speech, there are different things or different elements your introductions must have. Okay, someone is knocking at the door. Okay, now you are with us. Welcome, Anya. Okay, as I mentioned in the introduction, it's not just to give a general description of what you are going to talk. There are some different aspects that must be included during the introduction when you deliver a speech. In here we have some of them. Greeting. Okay, remember that you are talking to an audience. You have to identify which type of audience do you have, and then you have to greet them properly, like using formal speech, like using formal greetings. Okay? Attention grabbing or hook. Wow. This is the most important part of the whole speech. Yes, to gather your audience attention. Most of the time, depending of the type of speech, most speakers use different type of hooks. It could be a question that let the audience to think about your topic. It could be a phrase. It could be a joke. But if you use a joke, you must know that not all people understand like American humor. Okay, so you have to be careful with jokes. So the best grabber is like to give a question to your audience and let them reflect about that question. That will activate their brains and they will focus on what you have to do. But that's not a simple question. That question must be related to your topic. So we were here describing the introduction part. As I mentioned before, you need to greet your audience. Then you have to use an attention grabbing hook. like to make your audience interested in your topic. So they need to be interested about what you have to tell them. Then you have, after that, then you introduce the subject. I mean, you introduce your topic, but in a general way. Remember, this is just one phrase to introduce what you have to tell them or what you are going to inform them in a general way. You introduce the idea. Then you have the thesis statement. This is really, really important that you specify what is the intention of the speech. So this is the thesis statement. Also in here, you have the credibility statement. This is sometimes when you add the like facts and examples that everybody will use or will get, like if they were something that are really important related to your topic. And the last one and not least is the preview of the main point. So at the end of the speech, you can tell the student, the audience about the objective, okay? What do you intend them? Why do you want to inform them? What are they going to learn? So the introduction is really, really important when you deliver a speech. So remember, the part of the introductions for any speech are greeting, attention-grabbing hook, the introduction of the subject, the thesis statement. You can include a credibility statement and the preview of the main point. Okay, we will see an example of an introduction for an informative speech in a few minutes. Don't worry. Let's talk about the second part of a speech, that is the body paragraph. Okay, so when you deliver a speech, it's very similar when you write an essay. It contains the same part: introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion. In the body paragraph, you have to deliver your points, okay? Your main point. You are going to develop the main point ideas. So you state the point, you present the supporting evidence, okay? This is really, really important. But what we call supporting evidence, remember, those are facts, those are examples that will clarify the main points and also will help the audience to understand what you are saying. And then we have to use transitions to the next point. How do we do that? Like using connection or connecting ideas. Okay, in the body paragraph, when you deliver the speech, it must contain like 3 paragraphs from the 3 main points of your thesis statement. Okay, so then we move to the conclusion. What is a conclusion in a speech? A conclusion is the summary of the main points discussed. Okay, remember, you state here in the introductions the main points. Then in the body paragraph, you support those main points with supporting evidence like facts, examples, statistics, something that are credible, something that is credible, that make you, audience, believe the things that you are telling them. So in the conclusion, you summarize those main points that you stated, presented, developed to the audience, okay? Also, in the conclusion, you can restate the thesis. Remember that introduction, you had the thesis statement. So you can restate, that's paraphrase. Paraphrase your thesis statement. You can add a call to action, and you have to thank your audience at the end. Okay, so these are the 3 major parts of an informative speech. I will wrap them up: introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion. And here we have one example of an introduction of a speech. Okay, I'm going to read it for you. Examples of introductions. How many people in here have a hard time balancing schoolwork, working, family, and a personal time? What type of example is this? If you notice, this is a question. So if we move back to the previous slide, this is attention grabbing hook. Yes. We use attention grabbing hooks to call or engage our audience. So in here we are using, or we are connecting what we want to say to what they have experienced. Here we have another example. For many of you in here, time management can be a major struggle, but it doesn't have to be. What type of example is this? Wow, that's maybe credibility statement. Here we have another example. I've been effectively using time management strategy for years now, and it has made my life much easier to balance. So I'm adding something about my experience to what I try to explain to you or inform to you. First, I will discuss how to manage your school time, then work time, and lastly, family and personal time. This is really clear. In here we have the preview of the main points of the speech. So that means that I will discuss about how to manage your school time. This is one. Then work time, that's two. And lastly, family and personal time. So these are my three major points that I will develop or deliver to you, describe to you during the body part of the speech. Let's talk about the different type of speeches. Okay, in public speaking, there are different type of speeches, but in here we have just three examples. The ones that we are focusing today, informative speech. This is when writing an informative speech, you should focus on presenting facts, okay? Facts give you credibility about what you are saying. So the audience can trust you, can trust your words. So facts are really important. Or remember that in the categories of informative, we can also describe a sequence of events that's telling a story. But when you do this, you have to be very concise and you have to be very engaging. It could be boring. So you have to use a lot of attention grabbers. Okay? So here we have informative speech. Of course, most of the times we write what we have to say in order like to create an outline. You can make an outline about the major points you want to discuss or you want to inform your audience about. Okay, here we have the persuasive speech. When writing a persuasive speech, your job is to use facts, but also you use opinions to convince. So I have to change the way my audience think and let them to think like I do. So I use a lot of facts, evidence, statistics, graphics, a lot of things that can convince and make them to think the same way I do and also change their mind. So I use my opinions to convince the audience and to come around to your way of thinking. Okay? So this type of speech is very useful when you want to advertise something. So we can see this when we want to sell a product. Then we have the third category of speeches that we can see here is a special occasion speech. Are meant to entertain or pay tribute to a person, a place, or institution. These are the speeches we hear at weddings, funerals, and parties. So today we are going to focus on informative and also we are going to see some persuasive examples. Here we have the layout, the simple layout of informative speech. As I mentioned before, you can create an outline when you want to deliver a speech. You can use index cards. In the index card, you must write like the most important concept that you want to deliver in your speech. Because giving a speech is not about memorizing what you have to say. It's not about memorizing. It's like using the technique effectively. So you use an outline or a diagram to guide yourself through the deliver of the whole speech. So in here we have one layout for the persuasive speech. So here we have the main point, the persuasive speech outline. Then we have the three major parts, introduction, a speech body, and the conclusion. But remember, when you deliver a speech, the body has argument number one, you have argument number two, and you have to deliver an argument number three. And you support those three arguments, each of them using different facts, using examples, or giving your opinion, trying the audience to weigh the things they were thinking and let them make the same or convince them about your ideas. Thank you very much. So now we will start practicing.